welcome to a session of Miss Thomas Learning from Home. Today we're going to have a look at the experiences of Black Americans during the American Civil War. I've split it into positives and negatives because this is often the viewpoint that the exam board take at how much progress and what was their experiences. So in 1862 a new law was passed by the Union being those northern forces, which meant that any land that was captured by the Union forces within the South, that the southern land that was owning slaves would then become free. Okay, so this idea that any land that the North had caught within the South, if that had slaves on it, those slaves were then free. Massive turning point then came in 1863. In 1863, Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation. This was the idea that if the Union forces, the Northern forces, won the American Civil War, then slavery would be abolished. This sees huge changes within the status of Black Americans. For example, in 1862, just briefly before the Emancipation Proclamation, we see the first Black regiment being set up in South Carolina. And by 1865, 70% of the Union were actually Black soldiers. So that's really quite a significant amount. Another key regiment that you may want to remember is the 54th Massachusetts Regiment. They are one of the first all-Black regiments to be working for the Union. Now, with these positives become quite a lot of underlying negatives. So first of all, in 1861, as soon as that Civil War broke out, many Black Americans in the North wanted to join the Union forces. They wanted to fight for the North, but that was not allowed. So they're not allowed to join the Union forces to begin with, even though the Unionists are trying to abolish slavery. They're not allowed to be officers throughout the entirety of the American Civil War. So Black Americans are rejected at those higher levels, even though that change with the Emancipation Proclamation and that change earlier on, it doesn't make a difference. Those positions of power are still for white Americans only. The hardest work, the lowest paid work was given to Black Americans over white Americans. They're paid less, that's really key, and they're given different uniforms. There's a real segregation between your white and Black soldiers, even though they are fighting for the same cause. In 1863, all men had to fight for the Union forces if they were in from 18 to 40. Now that caused huge amounts of problems because the rich white men could pay their way out of service, but the poor white men could not. And so therefore they resented the Black Americans. They resented this idea that they would have to fight slavery and to abolish it because it didn't impact them. So they turn against the northern Black Americans within the area. Huge hatred and racism escalates. And we see a lot of lynching taking place in the North, which was traditionally less racist and less violent and a safer place for Black Americans. So to summarise, yes, there were huge landmark significant seismic changes and positives, but with those positives as constant underlying negatives and a difference between Black and white treatment.